do it, man.
Let's do it. Back on the pitch.
Right here in Germany.
Yeah. West Germany for a while there.
Well, this guy pretty much is German soccer. So.
Yeah. Doesn't matter which side of the Iron Curtain you're on. This man is German soccer.
Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Experience Podcast. I'm Chris Quinn with my buddy, Dom DiTolla, and we're here just talking sports, a couple of comics. Who are we talking about today?
Today we were talking about Franz Beckenbauer.
Literally Mr. German soccer, like we were saying.
Herr German soccer, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, das ist gut. Franz Beckenbauer, born September 11th, 1945.
So right in the rough of it.
What happened? I feel like something was happening in Germany around 1945.
Well, this is the thing was we had just had VE Day.
Yes, we did.
So we had victory in Europe. So we were pulling out.
Yeah,
and
we were pulling out. We were good at pulling out.
We did what we needed to do, and then we pulled out.
There you go.
America.
So
his parents, actually he has an older brother too. Mm-hmm. So his parents were just trying to rebuild their life, and they were talking about how unbelievably horrible it was because it was post-war
ruins.
Yeah, post-war ruins. It's hard to have sympathy technically for these in this era, but they had a really struggling upbringing.
Well, yeah, I mean, they lived in the kind of working class district of Giesing, which is near Munich, Germany. So he's from Bavaria. And I can't imagine what it's like growing up just like in the shadow of like death and destruction. And this is the second time in 30 years this country is doing it.
Well, something that was interesting that he said his mother really taught him and his brother from an early age was that all people were equal, and like Germany was really in a hard spot because they couldn't learn that lesson.
No.
Like that was something that his mother was like, look.
They had to be told twice.
Yeah, they had to be told 2 times within 50 years.
I'm going, they went to war with the world twice. But his dad, Franz Sr., was a postal worker.
Yes.
And they didn't want him playing soccer.
No, it was. I mean, there was no future in it. It was like skateboarding in the 80s or comedy now. There's no future.
No, it's just an upward climb to nowhere.
Just a real quick on his why he really got into soccer, and there was a big German like craze in soccer. They end up winning the World Cup in '54.
Yeah,
they have this striker Fritz Walter.
Yep,
who is like their hero.
No,
essentially,
that's who I read. It was like his favorite player ever, and he wanted to.
Yeah, he played for 1860 Munich, who is still a team. But Franz Beckenbauer actually played for this youth team in Munich, who was, I think they were SC...
Munich 66, I think that's what
1906.
1906,
So they're SC Munich 1906, and it became clear that this team didn't have money to support a youth team.
Yeah, and he was age 9 when he joined in 1954. Yep. And that's what I always think, and I've noticed that in a lot of our other soccer episodes, as you see all these great players, and particularly in Latin America, I would say, like we did with Zico and whatnot, is like they play for these teams, but they have no money. Or even Messi, and like their whole goal is to build this player up and then sell them, basically, right?
Well, that's kind of not what this team actually thought. They were going to be building these players up to play for them, and then they lost all their money and were like, hey, next year we're not going to have a youth team. Literally, they weren't selling them. They were like, hey, you guys need to find a new team.
Oh, they're not even getting any compensation.
No.
Like,
It's like, hey, we're still going to have a club, but we can't have a youth team. And that was the thing was at that point, he thought he was going to go play for 1860 Munich, which was his
awesome.
It was his boyhood dream team, and they had a scrimmage or like a game against them that descended into like a full-on...
It was a brawl, dude. Yeah.
And he was just like, I don't want to play with those guys. I don't want anything to do with that club, which this is something, and we talk about, there's these little things that happen that like literally change everything in German soccer, and this is one of those where he doesn't go to 1860 Munich, but he goes to Bayern Munich,
FC Bayern,
who is the lesser team at that point, who now it's kind of even crazy to say because Bayern Munich is like the club coming out of the Bundesliga.
The first soccer game I ever watched was that summer in Germany, and it was an FC Bayern game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So, I mean, there you go.
There you go. Even I knew who they were.
That's what I mean, where it's this divide where nobody's going to know who 1860 Munich is, but like if you know anything about German soccer, you know Bayern Munich. So this is when he sees his first bit of controversy.
Yes.
So
big controversy.
He's 18. He goes to Bayern Munich, and what does he do?
He gets a lady pregnant.
He gets his girlfriend pregnant. And that's not so getting your girlfriend pregnant in this time isn't like, oh my God. It was, he got his girlfriend pregnant and it was clear that he was not going to marry her. And they were kind of like on the outs already.
I mean, he was a man ahead of his time in this situation.
Ooh, now we're talking.
Yeah, we are.
I like that.
But, and I don't know how well that went over in Bavaria, which if you don't know is super Catholic.
Let me tell you how well it went over. He was barred from the German youth team.
Which is like,
so literally they were like, he was their best up and coming player. He got this woman pregnant, didn't marry her, and they were like, you know what? We're good, man. You're not going to play for the national team anymore.
Franz, we need to talk to you about your pull-out game.
Your pull-out game.
I mean, on
Do
the
you not
pitch,
remember what the Americans did?
on the pitch, you are fantastic, but do not stay in there. Pull out. This is Russia 1941.
He had to have I believe it was the national coach and his club coach vouch for him to be like, hey, we need this guy to come back in. Did quick.
They have like a time machine saying like, look, 50 years from now, this is pretty commonplace.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Sorry. You just wait.
Wait and see. But this is 1963.
63, yes.
Yeah. Coach Detmar Kramer, basically goes to bat for him.
Yes.
And does him a huge solid and gets him on the regional Ligas team in 63 and 64, 65.
So this is where he comes back. So in 64, he makes his debut for Munich in a promotion game that they actually lose. So they
were in the second division.
They were in a promotion battle to go into Division 1 and they lose. And then he plays this next year in Division 2 in the Bundesliga for Munich. But I thought it was interesting because he is like known as this defender, which I'll get into later.
Which is weird because he started as an offensive player.
He started as like a left-sided midfielder, but really an attacking midfielder.
Yeah.
And he was like left-sided middle midfielder, which really comes into play later. And you see coaches really switching guys up to give them this experience up front and then see how they are in the back. And there's a lot of stuff that happens almost by accident that people do now almost standard.
Yeah.
Which is, this is why I love shit like this. So in Munich, they don't get promotion. And then the next year, dude, it is so much like Walt Frazier's college.
Yeah.
The next year, they were like, oh, we're literally the best team in Germany. Like they win Division 2.
German Cup. Yeah.
They go up and they win the German Cup, which is I have that. It's the DFB Cup, which is kind of like the FA Cup. So like in soccer in Europe, they have two different competitions a lot of the time where they have the regular league and then they have like a March Madness kind of tourney style, and they end up winning that, which is pretty big right off the bat. And then literally the next year in 67, they win the Euro Cup, which is like the Cup Winners' Cup. So you see right off of the bat with him still playing left midfield.
What a great player he is.
What a great player and what a great team this Munich team is. Again, I go back to what if he had gone to 1860 Munich? It would have been such a different... It's so crazy, these little things that happen.
Yeah, the spider webs, as you call them. Right?
Oh, God, the spider webs.
By 68, 69, he's the captain, and he's only like 24, 25 years old.
This is when... I feel like everything changes.
Yeah.
So like before, like leading up to this, he's a youth player. He's really great. Everybody sees his potential. I'm going to get into his international here in a bit, but I have to go into this era because when they move him to the central defense and they give him the captain,
that's when it all changes.
Oh, man. And it is so much like we were talking about all these other guys where you put your best player up the middle. And that's really what it was for this, because literally from like 69 to 77,
Oh, yeah.
He was considered the best, if not one of the best, and Pele's playing in this era.
Yeah, and
so
the German press is responding in kind, nicknaming him Der Kaiser.
yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see where he got that nickname? Because I thought it was interesting because I always heard it was something else.
Yeah,
and then I read into it. Yeah.
Yeah, go into it, dude. Yeah.
Well, I always heard that was because he was got a picture taken next to a statue of, I believe it was
Franz Joseph I from Austria.
Yes. So they were like, oh, he's the Kaiser of soccer, and that was the thing. But really, he was playing against Shakhtar 04. I think they're 1904. And they had a guy who was like the king of Germany, and he fouled him hard as shit.
Yeah, he did.
And they were like, look, you have the king, but we have the Kaiser, which it stuck. And then it really cemented him as this force. That's the thing that people were saying was like, when he was in a team, he would change that team. So like it would be a different team before he would join them.
He brought that winning mentality, like that, maturity. I mean,
yes,
older beyond his years, but just that like, no, we're going to go out and win this game for these reasons, and we're going to do it.
And the thing that I think people were so taken back by was, so he takes captaincy, he becomes the central defender,
but he has like that sweeper libero role I read about.
Well, he redefines it where he just constantly keeps going forward. And why it was so effective in this era was they didn't have somebody that was marking him. So like defenders wouldn't go up like that. So literally he would go up and just be by himself up there and constantly score and constantly draw guys out of position, opening stuff up for other people. Like they were talking about
sports IQ had to be off the effing charts.
That's
right?
exactly what I was going to say. He saw stuff that other people didn't see. So it was like, I'm going to move up. It's going to change their whole defense and open stuff up for us. And
the soccer field is my crystal ball.
And you see it happen literally from 70 to 76. So I just want to get into this.
Get into this. It's awesome.
It's such an unbelievable run by Bayern Munich. They established themselves as the premier, like they essentially are the Real Madrid of Germany.
They're
the
like
Yankees.
the Yankees. That was what I was thinking of German soccer.
The Patriots almost. You know what I mean? Where they're just like, they're the team, everybody else. So 72 to 75, they have 3 consecutive league championships. 74 to 77, they have 3 consecutive European championships. Franz becomes the first person, and I think he's the only person to ever captain 3 consecutive European championships.
That's amazing.
So they were so unbelievably good. They also have this thing where they get to wear this badge that it's like the forever trophy.
Yeah.
So there's only like 5 teams that have it. So Liverpool has it because they won it 5 times. Milan has it because they won it 5 times. Ajax and Bayern Munich have it because they did 3-peats. And then Real Madrid have it because they did a 3-peat and they've won it like 12 times. So if you ever think like Real Madrid is like, fuck Real Madrid.
Well, they were doing it with Hugo Sanchez
all the way back in the day. Yeah. They were actually the first. They just have a century goals. They're the first person ever, or first team to ever do that in Europe.
That's cool.
But Real Madrid is ridiculous. That's another. But for Franz Beckenbauer in this era, he is. I mean, you can't really compare because he redefines this role of central defender that when you look at defenders now, they all have his skill set. Every single one.
Carbon copies of him.
Yes.
That's what you're trying to get.
And literally, this is where it really changes to where central defenders become something else rather than just guys who literally stand there and are kind of like bullies.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like it creates more creativity within the game. It creates more thinking, and he took really good advantage of it.
So much more game strategy and so much more. You're right. The IQ that he had was top. So let's
do
get
international.
Let's get into international.
America.
Exactly. Okay. That's exactly where I wanted to go because we'll go all the way back.
Stat. It says in his career, 103 wins for West Germany, 14 goals, and that's as a defender.
Yeah.
This dude was awesome.
So we'll go all the way back because he
66.
actually, he played, first time he played for Germany in the World Cup, he was playing as a left winger.
Yeah.
So it's 66, and this is another era in which German soccer is super strong.
Yeah.
So they get to the finals and they end up losing to this.
Yeah.
This is something else that people were talking about, why it's so important to host, and I'll bring it up later with his post-career. But they end up running into England, who's hosting. And give me that Bobby Charlton quote that he said about Franz Beckenbauer, because he was talking about how ridiculous this German team was.
Yeah, he basically said Beckenbauer had a look in his eyes where it was, don't even try it.
Yep.
Don't even try me. Like, what you're looking for, you will not find here.
And this is before he was a defender. So this is when he was on the left side, and they were like, look, we can't go up the right because Franz is over there, and it's just gonna. This is before he was on before he was a defender, and this was when he was like 22.
Yeah, he is like 21, 22 years old. That's crazy.
Yep.
I'm just like, I can imagine with those steely eyes, like, don't come this way. I dare you. Don't do it.
So in 66, they're World Cup runners-up to the only English championship. In 70, they lose to Italy in the semifinals. And
crazy game. We talked about it in the Brazil episode.
Yes,
yeah.
They actually call this the game of the century. Italy beat them 4-3. Franz Beckenbauer actually dislocated his shoulder and went and played on with a sling because they ran out of subs. Or actually, I don't think they allowed subs at this.
No,
at this time.
he's playing
That's
in
why.
a sling.
So he's running around playing in a sling, and Italy actually beat them 4-3. And they were talking about those were like, because of this game, those are probably the two best teams. But you'll never know.
No,
because Brazil
was just the best.
That's what I wanted to. Well, not the two best teams, but they were saying like we wanted to see what Germany looked like against Brazil because we saw what it. You know what I mean? Not the two best. We wanted to see the two best runners up. That's what I kept trying to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because Brazil was obviously.
Yeah, but you know that dictatorship was just taking care of everyone. Those Brazilians.
No, man. You know what? A good dictatorship can really get your soccer program off the ground. So, and then
they go to the 72 Euros.
So, well, stuff changes in the German team where he becomes the captain.
Yeah.
And this is something that we saw in his club career. 68, he becomes the captain. It really changes this whole team. 69, and then so in 71 he becomes the captain of Germany, and they end up winning the Euros. In this era, the Euros only had 4 teams.
Yeah, only 4. Wow.
So
I thought it was few when we talked about Denmark.
Well,
Holy
they had this qualifying thing, and then they would have 4 teams do it, and then it would be a small like semifinal.
Okay.
And then they expanded it to 8 when Denmark won, and they were still saying that's small, and I think they do 16 now.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
So they ended up beating, I believe they beat
Soviets in
the Soviets.
72,
yes.
3-0.
Yes. And I was going to say they dominated.
Yeah.
It was obvious that they were a great team. So they're going into the 74 World Cup, European champions, and they're hosting.
And they're hosting in West Germany.
I was going to say, it's not just Germany, it's West Germany. So we have to make that distinction.
Yeah, until a very talented gentleman stood on that wall with a piano key necktie scarf and a light up leather jacket to bring it down.
Well, people say music can change the world.
He was looking for freedom, and you know what? He found it by that Brandenburg Gate, everybody.
I'll tell you what music can do. It can break down a wall.
Yes, it can. But
looking for freedom.
Oh, my God.
So in 74.
74. They're at the World Cup.
And they're hosting it, and they're dominating. But this is, and check out the Johan Cruyff episode.
Yes, and the Netherlands in this tournament, they're firing hot. And Cruyff, like Chris said, check out that episode. That guy's amazing. He's like the be-all, end-all star of that team, and they're total footballing the you-know-what out of this tournament.
Well, like we said in 70, everyone was just like, Brazil's the best team. When Dutch showed up, the Brazilians were even like, whoa, this team is above and beyond everybody else. But this is something that I think is in almost every single sport where the offense of a team is looked at more than the defense.
Yep.
And we go with the finals with Holland, Dutch, whatever you want to call them, the Netherlands versus
West Germany.
West Germany. And West Germany do this thing that is so smart for the era that wouldn't necessarily work now, is they just flat out man mark Johan Cruyff and take him out of the game.
Yeah.
So for some of the time it's Franz, and for some of the times it's somebody else. And if you don't know what that means, like literally they have somebody on him the whole time. Even if they have the ball, it doesn't matter. Like literally somebody shadowing him. and
it's like the
shut
spy
down.
role
Yeah.
in an NFL defense.
Yes.
They basically have a spy. That's what I kind of equated it to in my own brain as I wrote down my notes.
Yep.
But, yeah, and they win.
Well, they shut down total football, and that's what they were saying was like they had the best offense, but we had the best defense.
Well, what was it for baseball? The old adage: "Good pitching always beats good hitting." Once you get to the playoffs,
I always like the you can ride a hot goaltender all
And
the
that
way
one,
through
too.
the
Yeah, you
playoffs
can.
for
You've
hockey
seen
because
it.
you can, yeah. But it's really that truth is defense wins championships, and I think that's what this is. Where people are like, yeah, Holland was the best team to watch.
yeah, to watch.
But they weren't the best team overall. And Franz Beckenbauer literally was that, like, the most important part of this team.
So many broken dreams of people in clogs that day, Chris. Just so many.
And then they almost did what Spain was the only team they ever done, which was Euro, World Cup Euro. They go to the next Euros and actually lose to Czechoslovakia, which was a amazing team in that era.
Oh, yeah.
He ends up retiring from international football after this, and then we get into why he's so important to me as a fan.
There you go.
Is because he brings soccer to America.
He did. He brought it. He brought it along with Pele.
Well, you know what? He heard this singing, shining voice. Come to America for freedom.
Yep. And 1977, he signs with the New York Cosmos of the North American Soccer League.
Just to put it in perspective, the New York Cosmos signed Pele in 75 for what would be the biggest contract. And then 2 years later, they signed Franz Beckenbauer for, some people say, comparable or even bigger contract.
Wow.
And that's the amount of money that they were really putting into this. Was they really thought it was going to be that fifth, sport,
main sport.
Yeah, where it actually was going to be on the opposite schedule as football, and kind of try and maybe battle that. You know what I mean? The basketball, baseball thing. And for a couple of years, it really, in this era, it really did, because they had...
The team is good, too.
They had Johan Cruyff in the league. They had all these players in the league. And the Cosmos, in this era, are without a doubt...
dominant.
The best team. They have... To think of, like, they're almost like the first really big super team, even though Pele's old at this point.
Yeah.
Because
Still Pele.
They have Pele in the central, they have Franz in the central, and they have an Italian striker in the central who we'll probably do an episode on, because he's a wild man.
Sounds like my kind of guy.
They went and got like Brazil's best player, Germany's best player, Italy's best player, and like put them all straight up the middle, and then they proceed to win 3, because they called it like a soccer bowl,
like the Super Bowl, yeah.
And they win 3 out of the next 4 soccer bowls.
78, and 80. Yeah, that's crazy. And then
and they also were like the best team throughout the regular season. Like they were crushing. I think there's like they had shit like 24-6 was their record, and like they were really crushing teams, because they weren't
I can't imagine other teams in smaller markets would have been willing to spend that kind of money either. So you could have had guys it's like, well, I played in high school for
not even that's what a lot of the teams were made up of, is one semi-star and a lot of non-professionals,
not soccer guys.
Yeah. So he actually goes back after this stint with the Cosmos. He actually goes back and plays for Hamburg.
Yeah, Hamburg,
plays for them for 2 years, but they were talking about that being more of like a coach player role, where I think he played like 20 games the first season and like 10 the next.
He's getting to be 40 years old,
but they actually won the Bundesliga in one of those. So he definitely came in, improved the team, and then went back and played one last year with the Cosmos, in which people were saying it was kind of like a money grab, because he really should have retired.
Yeah.
But he was still really good, and they end up losing in the first round of the playoffs. He said how much of a bummer that was, because he was like, all right, this is my last. It was without Pele. It was without, you know what I mean? So it was definitely a bummer right at the end of his playing career.
Oh, yeah. But he doesn't stop with soccer after this. He becomes a coach.
Well, real quick, he had 754 matches for club. He had 4 Bundesliga titles, 3 European titles. Actually, 4 European titles, excuse me.
World Cup.
3 Super Bowls, soccer bowls. And then for international, he had 103 caps for West Germany, a World Cup, a European title, a runners-up to a World Cup, a runners-up to a European title. So he was literally, this was the thing that I love is with these great teams is if you're winning a trophy in this era, you have to beat West Germany.
Yeah.
And
he is the West German DJ Khaled. All he does is win.
Yeah. But then he becomes a manager, but he's kind of, some people would call him a caretaker manager.
Yeah.
So he goes to Olympique Marseille in France and he coaches them for about a year, but he was actually technically the sporting director.
Yeah. He's kind of like a figurehead in the front office.
Yes. But they did great. They ended up being, I think, runner-up in the French league and runner-up in the European title. So, like, he definitely improves wherever he goes.
Yeah. Did you want to talk about him managing West Germany?
And then he goes and manages. Because Olympique Marseille is after that.
Yeah,
You're right. I'm sorry. Yeah. So he takes over West Germany in '84, which we see them being. I think in this era, like they thought it was going to be a resurgence.
Yeah, but they kind of, they were kind of shut out there for a while,
Well, they definitely had almost like a rebuild, and they thought that with Franz coming into the helm in '84, it was definitely going to improve their team, and they did. So
86, they go to the World Cup and they go to the finals.
We see them in '86 in Mexico, and they end up losing to our boy Diego Maradona, the party animal,
animal.
In that, check out that episode in that absolutely unbelievable World Cup.
Yeah, that World Cup is amazing. Oh gosh!
But that's the thing is, with them getting to the final, everyone was just like, oh, okay, we're getting back to this German, you have to beat us to win. And really, in the 90 World Cup, he really shows this really great German team with Johann Klinsmann. And all of these players that you see.
This one's in Italy, by the way, if you didn't know.
They take on Argentina again in the final.
But this time.
End up beating them 1-0. And
that was the Maradona quotes one, wasn't it?
Oh
yes,
yeah.
It was. Oh
yeah.
God.
Oh yeah. The Maradona, the Italy with Maradona World Cup is one of the craziest.
Oh yeah. And then they have the Noti Magiche song, which I had to speak in Italian in class back in college. Oh geez.
All right, so I had jumped around. So after he wins the World Cup as a manager, he's one of 3 player managers to ever do that. Win as a.
But he was one of like the only ones, I think only one of 2 to be like a starter, to have like actually like played significant.
It was him in the French manager. Yeah. Didier, I forget what his last name is. Deschamps or whatever it is.
Deschamps?
Deschamps. Yeah. But yeah, they were the 2 that were because I think he was really the only one that captained.
The captain. So, yeah, that was it. They were both captains. That
yes.
Was it. Yeah.
So he takes over Club Marseille for like about a year, and they do a lot better under his tutelage. And then he takes over Munich for about a year. It was in and out with Munich.
Yeah, it was kind of a couple different stints.
Because, technically, and this is what they call it a caretaker manager, where somebody has to come in and they're like, well, we have somebody else waiting and they can't come in right now. So he'll come in for 4 months. And then that person didn't work out, so he came in again.
Yep.
And then somebody else came in, and that's when you really see him take the role that post playing career is his, which he becomes the president of Munich. Pretty much like their
Derek
operations.
Kaiser. Yeah,
Derek Kaiser.
He's the strong man in charge there for him.
And he puts Munich. He keeps that juggernaut going.
Yeah, call him a caretaker if you want. You still have to make them good.
He was caretaker manager, and then he became president. And when he became president, that's when he was just like the man. And that's where I don't think he was a great club coach. I think he was a better club president, but I think he was a good international coach.
And he lasted until 2009 with that organization, which is pretty amazing.
In 98, though, this is in 98, he becomes vice president of German Football Associations, which there's just like a bunch of stuff. So one of the things that they do is they bid for World Cups.
Yeah.
And they successfully bid for the 2006 World Cup. So that's where Germany held it.
I did want to bring this up, though. So with the 2006 World Cup, so after I graduated high school, our German club did a trip of Germany. Like, we spent a whole summer there, right? And I'm on a train, and I see a magazine, and there's this, like, seemingly pleasant old man on the cover. and it says Der Kaiser on it. So I'm like trying, with my 4th grade German reading ability, trying to go through it. I'm like, man, this Beckenbauer guy is a big deal. I'd never heard of. I had no idea. But they were just talking about like how instrumental he was to bringing the World Cup. Yeah, I was just like, oh, well, I didn't know who this guy was, but he seems pretty fascinating. Let's give him a Wikipedia search.
No, I mean, he was really, even in this era, he was huge in German football. That's why it's he's literally Mr. Germany.
And greatest defender of all time, probably.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, redefine the role. So, but here we go with just a slight bit of controversy. 2018, the World Cup was awarded to Russia. We all remember that. England got screwed over.
Yes, they did.
And he had payments that were,
oh, man.
I wouldn't say confirmed, but from the Russian parliament for $3 million to vote for him and another $1.5 million once it succeeded. And they were both pretty much shown that it went through. The ethics committee for FIFA tried to charge him, and they pretty much just let the statute of limitations run out because they were like, we don't want
this is an embarrassment.
Yes, it's an embarrassment. And they were just like, please just don't be involved with anything else with literally the international soccer or giant club soccer. And he pretty much has taken a step back from all of that because of this.
He's pretty much just walked away.
Yes.
He's had to walk away, and it's really unfortunate.
He still does a ton of stuff from Munich, but he'll never be the president.
Yeah.
He'll never be football operations. He'll never be anything with German national team again. Like, all of that is pretty much over.
Kind of wish they did this with Pete Rose,
Telling me. But it's kind of ridiculous because it's really not a ton of money when you think of it. But I mean, this is the thing about FIFA too, and I could do a whole episode on this, is technically bribes aren't illegal everywhere. So like Russia wasn't looking that as anything. They were like, no, we know that you guys think that's illegal, but we think that's totally fine. Places in Africa don't think that bribes are necessarily illegal. They actually think they're technically in the custom. So it's one of those things where it's rough for FIFA to have this international law that goes from country to country. But for this era, there was so many bribes and so like
it was dirty. It was so dirty.
Everybody was taking bribes. If you were like the one guy who wasn't taking bribes, they'd be like, "What's up with Jesus, man?" Yeah. Like it was ridiculous. Like Sepp Blatter was the worst president.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk positively about that guy before. I'm not too familiar with him, but not a lot of positivity.
My favorite thing ever was he was so delusional that towards the end, when all of this started to come out, he made a statement that says, I guess I'm not going to get the World Peace Award this year like I thought I was going to get. And people were like, wait, is he being serious?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh,
so like just how delusional some of these guys were in this FIFA organization. And it sucked because
Franz got mixed up with the wrong people.
Yeah, we had some of these iconic players that were voting for World Cups end up taking bribes. Yeah. So that's just to end it on a little bit of a sour note. But Franz Beckenbauer, for me, greatest defender, and bringing soccer to America, he'll be without a doubt in my top 3 soccer players of all time.
Awesome.